just the familiarity of the staff
Yeah.
and coming over. What's that like, knowing that, you you continue with Coach Fritz, but you guys maybe just you built something somewhere else, let's do it again here?
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy because I think there's 4 of us that played for Coach in the building. And obviously, Wes, his son, Coach Landholm has a long relationship with him. Even Jordy was a GA for him. Coach Sherman, we were all GAs together at Georgia Southern. So it's pretty cool to have all of us here together where, most of us know probably 80% of the stuff that Coach wants done very easily. And then, obviously there's the things that he's going to change and he's going to do that he's going to tweak. But the base format of all that's here. And then, like I was talking to the strength coach, like we're all basically all living in the same neighborhood. I think Coach is going to live down there. So it's kind of nice to have that family feel, and especially like with all the families knowing each other and being able to get together. That's been really cool. But I think the cool part for me is just seeing how all of us at different stages, for the most part, have been with Coach, and now we're all here together again. It's kind of been pretty cool.
What's Willie been like in the stages that you've been with him? Because were you Central Missouri?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So you go back a little bit further.
So I've known Coach since I was 18 years old. So I guess that's half my life now. So it's been crazy to see him. Obviously I was a player, and then I was a student assistant at Central Missouri for him, and then I was a graduate assistant at Georgia Southern, and then going to Tulane. So I've kind of seen him at different stages in my life personally, and he has a really good ability to adapt where he is, but still keep himself, in his baseline. Like, Central Missouri is a different job than Georgia Southern was, and Georgia Southern was a different job than Tulane was. And obviously this is the biggest stage we've been on together. But he's done a really good job, I think, of keeping his core values on who he is, but being able to mold himself to different situations throughout his career.
On career paths, sometimes people choose to, at some point you go your way, but with him, it seems like you've gotten to a point where it's a good fit.
Yeah.
And do you feel like, that's sort of been the reason to kind of stick around, just because y'all have gone to these different stops and won and to accomplish stuff? Yeah,
I think successful programs have great cultures, and I think that Coach Fritz has established that, and he knows we know what he wants, and he knows what we're going to bring to the table. So I guess I've done a good job for him, and he's kind of kept me along the way. But I think that plays a huge part into it. You see a lot of staffs in college football now, like people are coming and going and doing different things like that pretty quick, and you lose a lot of the kids. But I think when we've kind of got our culture built, that kind of just adds to it and keeps everything flowing.
Your responsibilities, safeties?
Yes.
Okay. Was that also what you did at Tulane? Yeah,
so I worked with the safeties there, and then 1 year I coached the outside linebackers while I was there. But going back most of my career, even at the academy, I was a defensive corners or safeties there.
Why did you move the linebackers for the year?
So it was just kind of how the staff worked out. We hired a new defensive coordinator, and he was kind of a DB guy. I was really excited actually to do that, just to kind of, expand my base knowledge on everything and kind of get to learn, a new part of football. So it was pretty cool to do that for a year, and then moved back to the back end the next year.
Is there anything you learned in that year with linebackers that helps you back with the defensive backs?
Oh, yeah. Like when I was younger, just learning one position, and that's kind of all you focused on. But, once you go to coach the outside linebackers, and, you've coached the safeties, the corners, and the nickels, you kind of have a better appreciation for everybody. And I think it definitely helps you, the kids aren't going to know everything, but you can give them bits and pieces to help. Like, hey, this is why the outside linebacker is doing this, and this is how it affects your run fit. Where, earlier in my career, I don't know if I understood all that in as much detail. I think it definitely helps. And then being in the room with Coach Wood. I mean, Coach Wood knows, he's coached, I think, all 3 levels of ball in his career. And so now, like, he can bounce ideas off of, not just, Coach Ross, myself, guys that have done it all. I think we can kind of group think some things a little bit better that way.
Where are your recruiting territories going to be?
Yeah, so I kind of have, I guess it would be like Northeast Houston. And then I have kind of the San Antonio up to Austin. And then Coach Bell and I kind of cross over a little bit in Central Texas for parts of it, which obviously he dominates the area, being his background.
You got the scenic areas.
I do. I love that area. The hill country's really pretty.
The time at Army, does that change from how you coach?
Yeah.
Sort of the regimen and how, down the middle it is.
Yeah, those kids are, they're still 18 to 22-year-old kids. They just kind of figure out how to get things done. Like a lot of those kids act just like our kids do. But I think the thing that helped me the most there, and Coach Kreis, our special teams coordinator, tell you the same thing, having been there together, the leadership development you get from everybody else is really priceless. Being able to work with different, high-ranking officials, you meet senators and congressmen, being able just to bounce ideas off of them. I think everywhere you go, you learn something, and definitely there, outside the football stuff, the extra stuff, the leadership, the organizational skills, and I think there you really learn leadership's not just giving orders. You got to make sure they care about you, or they care about you and you care about them, and they know that, right? And so I think that was probably the thing I took away the most, was just kind of the personal development was priceless for me.
And Willie recruited you?
Yeah.
Well, everybody has a
Yeah.
story to see.
Well, it was a little different for me, I guess. So I was at a different school, and my high school coach, Greg Nesbitt, was actually his defensive coordinator. And so I kind of just had played for Coach Nesbitt in high school and just kind of went over there with him. And then Coach Nesbitt had left, went to Truman State, and he just retired a little bit ago, or I guess a week ago. So I guess mine was a little bit different. But I've known him a while. He couldn't tell you one thing I ever did for him as a player because there wasn't much, but he could tell you, the first time he met my wife, he had all the GAs over, and then myself and Derek Sherman, we actually brought our future wives over to Easter at his house, which was kind of a cool time.
Style or sort of how you want your DBs to approach the game?
Yeah, obviously you want to be students of the game. Communication is key. I don't think you can have a secondary that doesn't communicate that's really good. So, we always tell them there's no secrets on defense. So I would hope you see a group that communicates with each other. And I think part of that's being connected. That's kind of something that's a little bit harder to do, more and more as things go on with social media and kids, is getting them all to buy in, and not just to us and what we're selling, but to each other. And being out on the road recruiting for the last couple of weeks has been kind of hard to see that. And then really the last couple of weeks we've been in the weight room and stuff, you kind of start to see the guys start to gel more and more. And so I think that's the thing you got to get the kids to do more than anything, is you got to get them to believe in what you're saying, but you got to get them to believe in themselves and each other. Hopefully a passionate group that's connected to each other, that flies around and likes to have fun.